Welcome to the Aaron Jack Show with Juan Segura. And today, thank you to Doing Good HQ, where you, the artist, can also be the philanthropist. I'm really excited today to have Juan on here and be here with you. Thank you so much. Welcome.
Hey, hello.
Welcome. Thank you so much for being here. And I would just like to know, what do you see in the world right now that gives you intrigue?
That gives me what? Sorry?
Intrigue, like that's interesting to you, that's exciting to you, that gives you wonder.
I would say maybe space exploration, thinking about the human race and what's beyond the sky, and all that is something I think about every now and then, and it's really intriguing. Yeah.
When did that start for you?
I don't know, but lately I'm thinking about that a lot. It comes a lot when I think about tales of old gods and all that. And I think about ancient people from other times just looking at the sky, at the stars, and thinking what's beyond. And now that we know what's actually beyond better than they did, it's really intriguing. And everything sort of connects. I mean, they were wondering what's the God in the sky, in the space, and we're still thinking the same thing, sort of.
So like the gods in space, at what point do you just like look up? Is there a like what do you see? How do you go about that, looking up into the sky?
It makes me think about things in a much bigger scale, in another layer. So we are all the time in our daily life worrying and taking care of our little business. And then when you think about what you see, when you look in the sky and you see the clouds and the sun, and you start to think what's beyond, then you realize there's a bigger layer with something happening that it's really in another scale. And it's really nice to compare daily life with this kind of cosmic scale.
It's very interesting about like the cosmic scale of things and how do we play into this universe and the art that we make. And um, I'm just curious about like this exploration of the stars, and you were talking about like the gods, and like what is that relationship and how does that?
Um, well, as far as I understand, the Greeks and the Romans and the people in history, they used gods to explain things they could not really understand. So the lightning, the sun, and all that. And is still, I mean, now we don't think about them as a weird man just throwing lightning. We think about something that is connected to, let's say, higher power. I don't want to get too religious, but it's something like that. And yeah, that's for me the classic way of thinking about gods and nature and the world and the universe has evolved. Now we have science, but we still have this mystery of this thing going on.
So there's something in like the mystery of the universe that keeps us going, right? That keeps us exploring and creating. I don't know. What do you find within that mystery?
I when I think about, I spend a lot of my time creating. It's my art. It's nothing. I'm not creating cars or houses, but I'm all the time bringing up things that are not there, so to say. So creating things, and it's a really like a mystic thought, but a mystical thought, but it sort of connects with what happened in the universe when there was just allegedly just a cloud of dust and gas, and somehow that got connected, and from nothing, things started to appear. And I like to think that somehow this power or physical formula, or whatever, is still what I'm using to in my daily life. So I'm kind of channeling this power of where there's nothing, combining things and creating something else. And I think that's the the deeper I can get when I think about what I do. Otherwise, it's just I'm just doing animations and graphics and 3D. But yeah.
I think that's interesting, like the idea of this mystery, and you're creating something that's beyond, and you're exploring something, and I'm really curious, like where you are right now in that exploration of this just beyond the self, or beyond the, because the how is just feels like just the technique for what you're really exploring with your work.
Can you elaborate the question a bit?
Yeah, yeah, like it seems like you're exploring this right now, these ideas of the, beyond the gods, beyond the, the interaction between the mystical world and the scientific world, just like in your thoughts. What how does that play into your art making practice?
Um, well, I think I'm trying to express these questions and these partial answers that I can come up with what I read and what I think about, and I'm trying to find something that I don't know what it is when I try to create something, and it's something really hard to catch. And but yeah, it's just this search of something that is there, somehow you feel it, but you don't know what it is, and just try to, I don't know, it's like solving a puzzle that you don't know how it looks, sort of.
How so? What do you mean by this puzzle?
um so it's like when I think about doing stuff, I want to have an image that is sort of ethereal, that I can somehow glimpse but not really look at straight. And then I start to build up pieces and combining them, and somehow I'm building up the pieces of a puzzle to create an image that I don't know what it is. And it's kind of a search that affects itself somehow. It's sometimes frustrating, challenging most of the time, but it's really rewarding when some pieces combine well together and you get somewhere. It's really something. Yeah.
Yeah, because I'm curious about this, like when we talk about these like larger mystical ideas of the universe, and how do they come down into like the practical day-to-day art making practice, like what does that mean for exploration and play? Just as like you said, you used to like look up at the stars, and now it seems like you still look up at the stars. How does that affect the ways that you look into your work, um, you know, as similar, different, or comparatively as like looking into like a larger universe?
Well, it it plays out that I try to find some not important meaning, but some meaning that it's beyond something that is just cute, or a technique that it's amazing to see and astonishing to see. I try when I look at the clouds and I see the way they behave and they move, and I see the scale, and I know that they're around the Earth, and the way the Earth has formed, and all that, which is an amazing setup, and that makes me think about something that I don't know what it is. When I'm creating art and trying to translate this feeling into what I do, and somehow try to pull the thread and see what it takes me, sort of, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I think this is really interesting, like this idea of the clouds, like these larger bodies that we as humans don't necessarily control, that it's beyond our singular control, but your way to interpret that, it seems, is an aspect, or look into that. Like what is that for you as you find that way back and forth between things that are far beyond the human control, and then your own, what do you control and how do you play with that?
Um, well, I somehow try to understand it, and oh, some thunder is rolling. Uh,
Yeah. It's like for both of us, right? There's like this,
yeah,
just as we're talking about, it's like the thunder's rolling, the
exactly.
rain's coming, the lightning, and we're here.
It's all playing out. So yeah, I'm sorry, I forgot what we were discussing exactly.
Well, just like, as we look at these larger celestial bodies or larger experiences that are beyond the human control, how do we see that? How do you see them, as it plays into your daily art making practice?
Yeah, I try. I mean, I'm I like a lot the human shape and sculpture, and I think that the human body is somehow able of expressing a lot. Basically, I mean, of course, we communicate with our body, so we when you see somebody making a posture or some type of body, you get a lot of information and a message, and you can get emotions. Really, the deepest emotion and the most silly emotion, you can have them from a person, and all that in itself is a really big universe. Which, I mean, we live in human society, and most of what we do is just talking to each other. So all this universe contained in the physical expression of a person, somehow I'm seeing a connection with clouds and this bigger scale we were talking about. There's something there that is somehow the same, that is being mirrored or connected. And when I play with things to make my art, I always have present the human body, and it connects with clouds. That's I mean, if you see my work, you can see all these type of fluids combined with sculptures and with human expression, and that takes me again to all these gods representation, which is representing the celestials and all these forces that has us in awe, somehow making them anthropomorphic, making them into a person. And this personification of this bigger mystery is somehow really appealing, and visually it's really beautiful. So yeah, I get myself busy with all that.
I think that's really interesting, the idea of the human expression, the of these things that are beyond this, these forces that are beyond ourselves, and that intermingling of uh, reflections and refractions within ourselves and these larger forces beyond us. Do you ever, how do you explore that? I'm just curious. Is that like specifically with the art that we see, or do you have other kind of ways to explore, understand, and think about um, these larger forces and how they intermingle with the human expression?
Well, I mean, I think you can see it everywhere, basically. I mean, you look at the world and see people living in the world, and you have that. And then I like to draw whenever I can. I go to a live drawing sessions and try to draw persons. And I like comics a lot. Superheroes. Even they're silly, but they have also the same kind of god powers into a person and all that. Yeah, I mean, I don't go that much, but whenever I'm able to go to a ballet, it's really nice to see how you can take a human body and express all this kind of dynamism and emotions with that. So I'm all the time keeping an eye for this type of representations. I mean, combat sports, not that I'm a huge fan, and also I think it's not too pleasant to look at because it's really violence, which is, I mean, it's scary. But you can see when you see two persons fighting, you can also sense this power of life, of fighting violence, life, death, playing there. You can see all the expressions of the body and everything, and all that somehow these two guys fighting contain also these highest forces of nature that are colliding there. You know, you can connect that with evolution, survival of the fittest, and whatever, but it's all somehow playing there interconnected too.
It's really interesting, this idea of the expressions of the human body as it exists within violence and beauty, grace, and just being in the world, and what is it that we see in the external world, and how do we interpret it internally. And you were talking about how you observe these aspects by going to the places, by drawing them. What other ways do you find that you're able to observe, and how are you able to take in and realize these expressions of the human force, the human body, the humanness of it all?
Well, I think one way is observing, drawing, or seeing people dancing and whatnot. And I think the other way is really trying to take their raw emotions and somehow see how they express in a visual way. Can be with physical body or with colors, maybe. In that regard, also music is really a huge inspiration for me. And I'm listening to music all the time, and it's really driving my all these images that I somehow glimpse at and I want to reproduce. Music is really also bringing all this inspiration and all these notion of emotions that turn into something tactile, physical.
How do you work with music in your in the work that you show the world? Because you only show the world a certain aspect of what you're observing, it seems like.
Yeah, if I had more time or more skills, I would show much more. But I'm limited by myself, I would say. And I mean, I have the plan to start using music more. I used to do music in my teens with the computer. I want to pick that up again and really make the combination of visuals and music with their interweaving really well. They bring the video that you have really to life. And yeah, I'm listening to music all the time. Sadly, I cannot take the music from famous artists that I hear when I'm doing my pieces and put them there. It would fit perfectly, but yeah.
Do you have some favorite musicians that you would like to talk about, or inspirations musically?
Well, I hear pretty much everything. I can get my ears near off. Lately, I've been listening to the soundtrack of Interstellar from Hans Zimmer. That's also a space movie. Not that I'm a huge fan of space movies, but this one is. He somehow, I mean, he's an amazing musician. He has created many soundtracks, and there are many amazing. And this one particularly has this big scale we were talking about. Somehow he captured this drama of life in this playing in this big cosmic scale, and it's really nice. It's really nice.
How do you see your own work in that cosmic scale of things, you know, in the micro macro sense of it, and how would you like to see it in the future?
Um, I would like to see it. Well, I mean, if I see it in the bigger scale of things, I'm just an evolved monkey making drawings, basically, and just trying to picture somehow the awe he feels when look at the sky, whatever that is. And I would love to see my pieces in a physical space more often than I do. I mean, we met in this meetup for the Bright Moments. It was here in Berlin, this NFT conference, and there I could see my work for the first time in 8 by 8 meters screen. Well, size matters. I mean, it was really something, and it's the same like movies. If you see a movie in a theater, you get trapped by the world of the movie much more than if you see it on an iPad or in your own apartment. So I would love to see my pieces in an exhibition in a room just for themselves. If it's big, great. If it's small, small. But dark light and somehow being able of having a more condensed experience, I would say maybe. I think every artist dreams of making exhibitions and whatnot. So me too.
What does that feel like to walk in and imagine your work in that space that you dream of feeling your work in? Like what is that feeling to walk into this imagination of where you would like your work to be?
It's a feeling of that maybe I can tell a story with